CEO.CA, the leading community for investors in junior resource and venture stocks. My name is Amrit Gill, and today we're joined by Charles Funk, CEO of Heliostar Metals. Welcome to the show, Charles.
Thank you very much for having me, especially today.
For investors who don't know Heliostar, can you give us an overview of the company?
Heliostar is a gold developer building the Ana Paula project in Mexico to what we believe will be the next gold mine in the country. We've delivered some very wide, high-grade gold drill results. We've improved the metallurgy significantly, and now we've just put out a spectacular resource upgrade with very high grades and a very high-grade starter zone within that. So we think the combination of grades and the speed at which we can get into production is unparalleled in our peer group.
So just on that note, can you give us some more context behind your MRE update?
So previously, Ana Paula had been envisaged as an open pit mine. That means it had broader, lower grade zones. And what we saw at the core of the deposit was a zone that was averaging about 60 meters wide, grading between 5 and 15 grams per ton gold. And so we thought that would support underground mining. And most importantly, we think we make more money going that approach. It's one of the more unusual ore bodies in the world where it takes less money to push the decline into the underground than it would do to remove all the surface material in an open pit. And so we completely transformed our approach was a complete transformation from the past. And so we returned 710,000 ounces at 6.6 grams per ton gold in M&I categories and another 450,000 ounces inferred at 4.7 grams. That speaks to a material increase in high-grade resources. Within that, there's about 200,000 ounces at over 10 grams. It means we can bring very high grades forward to the beginning of the mine plan, and we believe that's going to have a huge impact to the economics.
How do the results at Ana Paula compare to any competitors?
I think they have to be in some of the best in the world. Very few ore bodies can consistently deliver 50 to 100 meter intercepts across the ore body, not just in one little spot, but methodically across the ore body that can return 5 to 10 grams per ton gold consistently. It's one of the features of the ore body. It really distinguishes that grade and width as a proxy equals profitability, and very few projects have those kind of results.
And what comes next now that the updated MRE has been published?
Great question. We actually have a bit of a challenge internally. We will be in production in 3 years. We will reach our feasibility study and our construction decision in 18 months. But we've got a question ahead of ourselves that we've got to answer in the next month or so. We see a lot more resource growth to come. So we're debating now whether we do resource update and then our first study, or do a study on this resource and resource update. They're both kind of good problems to have, but I think we can easily grow the resource in excess of 1.5 million ounces. But we also want to show the economics on this current resource because we believe they'll be incredibly strong.
Where do you see areas of growth for Heliostar in the short term?
Yeah, so the great thing about this resource is we've probably already started to show potential beyond that with the results we've put out in the last couple of months. And I'll go back a step. The previous drilling that was done on this project had a pretty clear concept in mind of how you'd find the gold. And that led to most of the drilling being in one direction, from west to east. And as we looked at all that work and learned, we recognized that actually the key controls on high-grade gold are east to west. And so that orientation either means you hit home runs or you miss, as a very simple explanation. And so our understanding of the deposit has really opened the doors. We now drill from north to south predominantly, and that's where the resource growth came from largely, in finding more volumes of higher grade. We're able to find a new zone, the parallel panel, where we've returned some exceptional results. We think there's another 100 to 300,000 ounces to come from there. We think the high-grade panel has room to grow. And in this resource update, for those who have seen the press release, we see a lot more of potential for these parallel structures to the north. So you always take sort of time to learn, to understand ore bodies and how best to find the gold within them and expand them. And I think we've been able to do that this year. And that's why I think we have a very clear pathway to 1.5 to 2 million ounces in the next 12 months. Ultimately, I think Ana Paula can become a very, very big ore body. Our two neighbours within 20 and 30 Ks, 10 to 15 million ounce gold deposits. So we're in a part of the world that creates very big gold deposits. And I think we've started to learn the recipe, and the results that we're getting are showing that success. So we believe there's a lot of growth to come in the near term from Ana Paula.
And Charles, what does the pathway to production look like for Heliostar?
I think we actually have two streams. So building on what we just talked about is the more standard pathway of de-risking the project through the studies, and continuing to grow that resource to get the best set of financials that we would build the mine around. There's another more accelerated pathway that we're putting quite a bit of time and effort into the moment. So it's an unusual project because it's had over $100 million spent in it before, because it's got its open pit permit. It's significantly more advanced than a lot of projects at this stage normally are. And so it's got a third of a decline, if that makes sense. A previous operator was putting a decline into the base of the ore body to drill the extensions which remain open. Unfortunately for them, their operating mine started losing money about 5 years ago, and they stopped that. And so we're looking at scenarios where we can more rapidly push that decline in, potentially take a bulk sample, and accelerate the production pathway. So we have a more standard pathway, which most investors will know, that leads to quite significant re-ratings in company share prices. But we're also looking at some really innovative ways to get that decline down, further de-risk the project, and bring cash flow forward.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the community at CEO.CA?
I think what I'm most proud about what we've delivered this year is we laid out a scorecard, in effect, in April this year of what we could achieve, and the timelines in which we would deliver them. And so two things I think have been really positive. One, we can control. We've delivered everything we said we would on the timeline that we committed to. But we've also really outperformed on the results. The three key levers that existed for us were resource growth, and we've just talked about what the resource update's done for that. We talked about bringing high grade forward in the mine plan. Every mine in the world would love to mine 10 grams up front in the mine plan, and we've now demonstrated that. The third being the metallurgy. We thought that door was open to improve, but really blown away when we got the 80% recoveries in a conventional approach. So we've made every poster winner this year. We've done it by actually just simplifying the mine plan approach. We think we'll continue down that pathway. This will be the next gold mine in Mexico. It'll be a very simple mine, and we believe it has the potential to be one of the most profitable gold mines being built in the next few years.
Thanks so much for your time today, Charles.
Thank you very much for having me.